water loading stations have expensive software and equipment and whatnot, and we've contracted the operation or the maintenance of those, and it's very specialized equipment. It's proprietary, and so that adds to the cost of those. So we're doing what we can to augment those revenue streams to keep the water loading stations operable. So I can that wraps up my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Honorable Daniels, did you have a follow-up question?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions before we accept the report?
Yes, so this is Delegate Yellowhair, my follow-up.
Honorable Yellowhair, I believe I told Mr. Ashley to contact you on your situation because if it's an individual...
No, it's my follow-up. It's my follow-up. I understand that. Yeah, Chairman. Yeah, Craig. Conflict. It's just my report. So that it's like education information. This is my report. It's just my report. Everybody has problems, you know. It isn't that what our carton that is needed. It's not what that's snow. It's not on your finicky. About on the snow. That's what that's it. Information is like what the never was a bias all the time. The art and Navajo Nation perhaps the information they have the data once they respond slowly. Yeah. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? I hear none. We'll go ahead and do the roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green, Chairman.
Honorable Stewart? Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. They're not voting. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Ashley and Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Resource and Development Committee. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present on this issue. I'll go on that.
Number 6 on the agenda, old business. There's none. Number 7, new business. New business A. Honorable Carl Slater, are you on the call, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Legislation 0075-22. Mr. Tahi, could you read this into the record, sir?
Chair, members of RDC, you have summary sheet for tracking number 0075-22, date March 29th, 2022. An act relating to budget and finance, resource and development, health, education, and human services, and navigate committees, and to the Navajo Nation Council, allocating $10 million from the Sisasan Fund to establish a new outdoor recreation fund for the Navajo Nation. Purpose of this legislation to approve $10 million from the Sisasan Fund to establish a new outdoor recreation fund for the Navajo Nation and to approve the related expenditure plan for the outdoor recreation fund. Navajo Nation Council has final authority over this legislation, which will be read into the record in its entirety. The primary sponsor for this legislation is Honorable Carl Slater, co-sponsor Amber Kisnas-Bakrati. For tracking number 0075-22, an act relating to the budget and finance, resource and development, health, education, human services, and NUPIT committees, and to the Navajo Nation Council, allocating $10 million from the Sisasan Fund to establish a new outdoor recreation fund for the Navajo Nation. In section 1 outlines the authority. In section 2, the finding, which includes it in Exhibit A. In section 3 is allocating $10 million from the Sisasan Fund to establish an outdoor recreation fund and to approve a recreational expenditure plan. In section 4 is the effective date. In section 5 is the saving clause. Attaches Exhibit 1, which is the expenditure plan for the outdoor recreational fund. Then you have the first report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0075-22. This legislation was posted on April 6, 2022 at 5:03 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended April 11th, 2022. There was no comment supporting this legislation, no comments opposing this legislation, no comments or recommendation on this legislation. Then you have the second report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0075-22. This legislation was posted on April 6th, 2022 at 5:03 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended April 11th, 2022. You have 2 comments supporting this legislation. One is from Central Navajo Agency Council, and the second one is from Angela Sisjan. There was no comments opposing this legislation. There was no comments or recommendation on this legislation. The resolution from the Central Agency Council of Navajo Nation is resolution number CAC 04/22-14. Then you have the third report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0075-22. This legislation was posted on April 6th, 2022 at 5:03 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended April 11th, 2022. There was 2 comments supporting this legislation. One was from Donald E. Mose III, and the other one is from Thomas Riggenbach. There was no comments opposing this legislation. There was no comments or recommendation on this legislation. Then we have the 24th Navajo Nation Council Budget and Finance Committee report with vote tally. The Budget and Finance Committee recommended a due pass without amendment. And the vote tally indicates there was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstaining, which is the chair. Chair members of RDC, that is legislation number 0075-22 read into the record. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Freeland.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland, second by
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, this legislation goes on to Hesse, Nabgiati, and the full Navajo Nation Council has full authority. Are there any comments or questions? Going twice. Going 3 times. We'll have a roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker text in his vote as green. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. just text in his vote as green as well. Honorable Daniels.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Honorable. Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries on legislation 0075-22. Thank you, Shanella. Honorable Carl Slater.
Yeah, Chanel, Chair, thank you. And colleagues, committee members, have a great day.
Yeah. B, legislation 0190-22. Sponsor, Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. Mr. Tai, could you read this into the record?
Chair, members of RDC, you have summary sheet for tracking number 0190-22, date October 4th, 2022. An act relating to Budget, Finance, Resource and Development, and Advocate Committees and the Navajo Nation Council approving $200,000 from the unreserved undesignated fund balance for the Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project. Purpose of this legislation to approve $200,000 from the UUFB to CPMD for the planning and construction of Phase 2 of the Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project. Navajo Nation Council has final authority over this legislation, which will be read into the record in its entirety. The primary sponsor for this legislation is Wilson C. Stewart Jr. for tracking number 0190-22, an act relating to the Budget, Finance, Resource and Development, and Advocate Committees and Navajo Nation Council approving $200,000 from the unreserved undesignated fund balance UUFB for the Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project. In Section 1 outlines the authority. In Section 2, the findings, which includes an Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C, Exhibit D, Exhibit E, and Exhibit F. In Section 3 is appropriating $200,000 from the UUFB for the Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project, which references Exhibit C and Exhibit D. In Section 5 is the effective date, and Section 6 is the savings clause. Attaches Exhibit A, which is the Sawmill Chapter Resolution of the Sawmill Chapter Navajo Nation, Resolution Number SAW-04-2225-22-02, requesting the Resource and Development Committee, Budget and Finance Committee, and Advocate Committee, and the Navajo Nation Council to appropriate $200,000 from the undesignated unreserved fund balance UUFB for the planning and construction of the Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project Phase 2. Attaches Exhibit B, which is a resolution of Sawmill Chapter SAW-04-25-22-01, which is approving and adopting the intra-budget transfer from Fund 23 in Sales Tax 25 in 1,800,000 CIP and 27 in 200,000 CIP funds to Sawmill Chapter Sisasan Renovation Project to ensure problematic daily operation and complying with the 5 management system policy and procedure. Attaches Exhibit C, which is a Navajo Nation Supplementary Fund Proposal Summary. Attaches Exhibit D, which is the Arviso Construction Company Sawmill Chapter Office Renovation dated Thursday, April 21st, 2022. Attaches Exhibit E is a memorandum dated October 4th, 2022. Subject UUFB Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project Phase 2, $200,000. Attaches Exhibit F, a memorandum dated June 29th, 2022. Subject supplementary funding request for $200,000 for Sawmill Chapter Renovation Project Phase 2. You have the first report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0190-22. Sponsors Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr. This legislation was posted on October 5th, 2022 at 1:09 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended October 10th, 2022. There was no comment supporting this legislation, no comments opposing this legislation, no comments or recommendation on this legislation. Then you have the 24th Navajo Nation Council Budget and Finance Committee report. The committee report do pass without an amendment. You have the vote tally sheet, which includes 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and the chairperson not voting. Chair members of RDC, that is legislation number 0190-22 read into the record. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Honorable Begay, motions, second by
Second motion, Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, thank you. Honorable members of RDC, this legislation moves on to Budget and Finance, Nabagia, and the full council. Are there any comments or questions? Going twice. Going three times. We'll do the roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker votes green according to his text message. And also Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. texting his vote is green. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries for legislation 0190-22. Okay, Honorable Stewart.
Oh, thank you very much.
Next, C, legislation 0201-22. That's my legislation. So, Honorable Vice Chair Walker's having difficulty with his phone reception. So, Honorable Freeland, will you please chair the RDC while I have my legislation move?
I'll be good, Chairman.
Thank you. You have the gavel at this time.
Christina, I can't launch on Chairman there, the RDC members on Senigi, colleagues and staff, good morning. Wanted to, of course, have this legislation read into the record. Mr. Tahi, if you can help by doing that for us this morning, thank you.
Pro Tem Chair, you have legislation summary sheet for tracking number 0201-22, date October 18th, 2022. Title of the resolution, Proposed Navajo Nation Council Resolution, an act relating to law and order, resource and development, health, education, human services, and NUBCAT committees, and the Navajo Nation Council, amending Navajo Nation Code 13 NNC sections 1901, 1902, 1903, 1905, 1906, 1951, 1952, and 1953. Purpose. The purpose of this legislation is to amend Title 13, Chapter 11, Burials at 13 NNC section 1901, 1902, 1903, 1905, 1906, 1951, 1952, and 1953. Navajo Nation Council has final authority over this legislation, which will be read into the record in its entirety. The primary sponsor of this legislation is Honorable Ricky Nez for tracking number 0201-22, an act relating to law and order, resource and development, health, education, and human services, NUBCAT committees, and the Navajo Nation Council, amending Navajo Nation Code 13 NNC sections 1901, 1902, 1903, 1905, 1906, 1951, 1952, and 1953. In section 1 outlines the authority. In section 2, the findings. In section 3, the amendments to 13 NNC section 1901, which is Title 13, Health and Welfare, Chapter 11, Burials. It amends sections 1901 Navajos, 1902 non-Navajos, 1903 husband, wives, and children. Then it amends sections 1905 removal of bodies, 1906 annual allotment of expenses. In Chapter 3 cemeteries, sections 1951 designations of site, 1952 the maintenance, section 1953 administration delegation of authority. In section 4 is the effective date, section 5 is the codification, section 6 is the savings clause. You have the first report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0201-2, sponsors Honorable Ricky Nez. This legislation was posted on October 18th, 2022 at 5:53 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended October 23rd, 2022. You had no comment supporting this legislation, yet one comment opposing this legislation, no comments or recommendation. The comment opposing this legislation is by Clara Dane. Then you have the Law and Order, the 24th Navajo Nation Council Committee Report. The committee reports a due pass with no amendments. Their vote was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 2 not voting. Then you have the second report, the Navajo Nation Legislative Branch Internet Public Review Summary for legislation number 0201-22. This legislation was posted on October 18, 2022 at 5:53 p.m. The 5-day comment period ended October 23, 2022. You had no comments supporting this legislation, no comments opposing this legislation. You have one comment and recommendation for this legislation. The comment comes from the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. Resolution number NNHRC OCT-12-22, resolution of the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission, titled Diné Culture and Diné Fundamental Law serves as the foundation and guiding principles for many Navajo written laws and regulation for end-of-life protocols. Chair members of RDC, that is legislation number 0201-22 read into the record. Back to you, Pro Tem Chair.
Agushi, Ahila, Mr. Tahi, thank you for that reading of legislation 0201-22, sponsored by Honorable Chairman Ricky Nez. Colleagues, any comments or questions related to this legislation? RDC members.
Need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Let's go ahead and establish a motion. I'm a little rusty this morning, unfortunately. Motion.
Daniel.
Honorable Herman Daniels makes the motion. Second, Yisha.
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart Satilla. Thank you. Shinado Satilla. Thank you. With that, colleagues and sending RDC members, are there any comments or questions related to this legislation? Going twice. 3 times. With that, I want to go ahead and have a roll call vote then. Honorable Chairman Ricky Nez, how do you vote? Shinata?
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Chairman. Honorable Vice Chair Thomas Walker votes green according to his text message. Honorable T. Allen Begay also votes green according to his text message. Honorable Herman Daniels, how do you vote? Shana?
I vote green.
Thank you, Shana. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Thank you, RDC members. With that, the motion does pass with a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and Pro Tem Chair not voting. Chairman Nez, thank you for the legislation presented to the Resource Development Committee members. Thank you. I'll turn the virtual gavel back over to you now, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. None. For new business, we're done. Number 8, close of meeting. Any other announcements, Mr. Tahi?
The chair members of RDC, I have no new announcements. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other announcements? I hear none. Let's have a motion and a second for adjournment.
Freeland?
Honorable Freeland, thank you. Second by?
Stewart, second.
Honorable Stewart, thank you. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote? Honorable Begay? Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. It is now 11:43 a.m. We are officially adjourned. Honorable members of RDC and staff, have a happy Thanksgiving with your families and be safe and take care out there. Thank you. God bless each and every one of you. Hakona.